in its international discourse and presenting itself to the world, China relies too much on its formal political discourse. You're not talking to a broad group of people. We have to present a much broader picture of China.
本期文化解惑人大卫·弗格森，英国人，中国外文局外文出版社荣誉英文主编。2021年，大卫·弗格森被授予中国政府友谊奖。2022年，他被中国翻译协会授予翻译文化终身成就奖。他不仅是习近平谈治国理政1至4卷英文版的英译文编辑，还参与过多本重要著作、政府白皮书的英译审校工作。凭借高超的语言驾驭能力和精湛娴熟的翻译润色能力，大卫·弗格森得到了中国翻译界和对外传播界的广泛认可。
大卫·弗格森先生见信如晤，偏见带来猜疑，走近增添理解。人际关系如此，国与国也是如此。在中国的10几年时光，您读万卷书，行万里路，从走进中国到读懂中国，再到向世界说明中国，您经历了一个怎样的心路历程？外国人读懂中国，该从哪些关键地方入手？100年未有之大变局下，如何用融通中外的语言和方式，消除偏见，增进理解，促进中外交流？我期待您的答案。
这一封那书信来得巧，见着方丈成功了，站立在营门双鸣号，大小二郎听得妙。
David.
Mr. Wang.
Good morning.
Good morning. I was just taking a little exercise while I waited for you.
And I heard you singing.
So I was singing a snatch of Peking opera.
Oh, very good.
Did you have breakfast?
No, not yet.
Good. Why don't we go and have some traditional Beijing snacks?
Sounds like a good idea. Let's do that.
Let's go. Here we are.
And how about if we get a plate?
A plate of this.
A whole lot
Okay.
of different things. There must be something good there.
Good.
I just in Europe. Beef. Yeah.
You want to try one?
Yes, I'll try one of these. Go la. Shall we start with this?
Okay, let me pay.
No, let me pay. 我买单。
好的，
你扫我，我扫你。
我扫您。
你扫我。
微信条码。
Thank you.
谢谢。
What have we actually got here that I recognise? This is soy milk.
Yes.
This is fried dough.
Yes.
This is
Yes.
some kind.
It's sesame paste
Yeah.
on corn
And
porridge.
corn porridge. Yeah.
Let's start.
Yeah. It looks like ribs. So that's a crunchy snack. The traditional Scottish breakfast is fried eggs, bacon, beans, sausage.
Coffee.
Yeah, completely different. So the first time I came to China was in 2004. I was coming over to China to meet my future in-laws. And the very first thing I was ever given to eat in China was a big plate of cold pickled chicken's feet. Cold pickled chicken's feet. But I had never, ever heard of chicken's feet as a dish, and it is just something we don't eat anywhere in the West, which made it even stranger.
Then what did you do?
Well, I tried, I sat and looked at it, and to be honest, they might as well have given me a plate with a stone on it. one of the interesting aspects of Chinese food is that the things with the least food on them are the most expensive. Chicken's feet are the most expensive part of the chicken. Back home in the West, the chicken's breast with all the meat on it is the most expensive part of the chicken, and we take the chicken's feet and we throw them away.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting looking at these chicken's feet, I thought I'd better try and eat it. So I tried to nibble some of the chicken's feet, but really I had no idea what I was supposed to be doing with them.
Can you accept chicken's feet?
No, I actually can. I eat them and I quite enjoy them. So either cold pickings, pickled or hot spicy. Yes, I can eat chicken's feet now. But that was a very strange experience. 2 hours into China.
从对中国饮食文化的不理解，到成为地道的中国通，并获得中国政府友谊奖，我很好奇，到中国的10几年里，他有怎样的经历？他眼中的中国又是什么样的呢？
It's a unique experience, bicycling in Beijing, Hutong.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. I don't think you can remember how many cities in China you have been visit.
I think there are 34 provinces and equivalent administrative units altogether, and I've visited about 19 of them.
David, some Western media look at China through a tinted spectacle.
Yeah.
How do you see this?
The Western media look at China as if it was a still photograph. They like to take a still from the video, and the still that they take is always one that's about 20 or 30 years out of date. You take a still, and you can look at that still and it doesn't move, and you can point at all the things that are wrong. You can look for problems, you can look for flaws, and you can focus on them. In China, I see China as a video. It was what it was, it is what it is, and it will be what it will be. And it's constantly changing and constantly progressing.
Moving.
Yeah, it is changing, it is making progress. Right, so yeah, this is Renji Shenzhuang.
Renji Shenzhuang.
Home.
Your home.
Yeah, since 2008, we've always lived in this here. Mr. Wang, Huayan Goli, welcome, your illustrious presence to my home.
Thank you very much. Oh, look at this.
So yeah, up here you can see a bunch of family photos over the years. Winter in Jilin, a visit to Suzhou.
Suzhou.
David Lee in various sporting endeavours, football and golf. In the centre here again, I actually get a place because this is the photo from the presentation of the Chinese Government Friendship Award.
Great honor.
Yeah, so if we move on.
Oh, you have a lot of books.
We've got a couple of books that were published by FLP, including this one about Gu Wenchang. This is one of my favourite books that I did edit. It's about Gu Wenchang, the party secretary from Dongshan County, a model party secretary. Very important book on Scotch whisky, published in China. I'm a big fan, as a Scot, I'm a big fan of Scotch whiskies.
So that's very interesting, and I'm curious, what made you came to China?
Well, that's an interesting story. Why don't we sit down and I'll tell you all about it.
Good.
I worked, I think, as you know, for a long time as a management consultant, 20, 25 years. And that's a very tough job. So I was looking for something new. And I was looking for something more creative. And I had an old friend, and I knew that he wasn't there at the time because he was flying off around the world somewhere. But I decided to pop in to say hello to his mother while we were there. So after we'd done our little job, went round to say hi to the mum. And it wasn't her who answered the door. It was a Chinese girl, a very attractive Chinese girl. And this girl eventually became my wife.
Oh.
But what was really fascinating about it, she just popped in for a minute or two to say hello to the mother. So if I had gone 10 minutes earlier, or if I had gone 10 minutes later, I would never have bumped into her. So we never met her.
How lucky you are.
Well, I was married to Mo Chun by then.
婚后，他们的儿子李大卫出生了。就在孩子几个月大时，夫妻俩做出了一个决定，而正是这个决定，改变了大卫·弗格森的人生轨迹。
And we had a son, David Lee, who was just a few months old. So we were looking for something new, looking for a different opportunity. So that was when we decided to actually come to China, look for work, look for business, look for opportunities.
A country full of
Well, and my wife it was who found an advert for a job as a journalist, editor, becoming part of the Chinese media, and reservations about it. But that was in March 2008. And in March 2008, you remember in the lead up to the Olympics, there was the unrest in Tibet. I was watching a story in China, and I was watching a story being told by the Western media to their audiences. So you had this story being told by the Western media, which bore no resemblance to the truth. And I knew the Chinese version was correct. I knew it for two reasons. The first reason was because I could see on the television. I could see video. I was here. I could see a lot of TV, a lot of video, closed camera stuff. And I knew that it wasn't fake from my own background working in media. I mean, ridiculous stuff. Images and video were being used. And that is the kind of stuff that you would see. And if I'm going to be a Western journalist inviting myself to China, I think the least I owe the country to which I've invited myself is fair comment. So I took the job with China.org and I became a journalist and editor with china.com.cn.
Thank you.
And then on May the 12th, there was the earthquake in Wenchuan. And I was sent down in the aftermath of the earthquake to report on what was happening. My first major mission as a journalist in Chinese media was to go to work to report on the aftermath of the Wenchuan earthquake, which was a huge challenge. Obviously, it was a great tragedy, and I saw some very hard things. But what I always remember about the experience was I saw some positive things as well. And one of the incidents that happened was that I was in a city called, I think it's Mianju, which is to the north of Chengdu, to the northeast of Chengdu. And we'd gone there to visit a sports stadium, which was being used as an emergency accommodation for refugees. So there's thousands and thousands of people in this sports stadium, and there were a lot of kids there, a lot of little kids, and they'd all come in from the rural areas. And for some of them, I was probably the first Uighur that they'd ever seen, first foreigner they'd ever seen. They got quite excited and started following me around, and then they wanted to play with me. So I started playing with the kids, and they were having great fun. And if you think what these people had just gone through, they'd lost their homes, many of them had lost family members, they'd gone through this terrible tragedy. Everybody in the photo is smiling and laughing. And it taught me an important lesson about resilience. That was one of the positive things that I gained from the experience, how resilient people can be. And I've always thought that resilience is a feature of the Chinese character in particular.
2010年，大卫·弗格森作为编辑和撰稿人加入中国外文局外文出版社，由新闻报道转向编辑出版，但他依旧没有离开读懂中国的事业。
I think you're very well aware that it's our 70th anniversary this year, and we have a full display of a lot of President Xi's works.
And
initiative
you just finished
was.
the fourth volume.
Volume 4 we've just finished.
On governance.
In July.
July.
Released for the Congress. And this,
And
I
this
think,
is
you will recognize.
This is President Xi Jinping's letter in reply to you.
To myself and my 4 colleagues, my 4 foreign expert colleagues working in foreign languages press.
It's a great encouragement.
Yeah. So here we are. This is
your
my new office. Up to you.
Thank you. Wow. Tidy office.
Tidy office, yes. And
Oh, a lot of honor.
I guess this is the main one. Government Friendship
Government.
Award. The Special Book Award. Some of my appointment as Honorary Chief English Editor.
Also great honor. Through your translating and editing work, you must know more than most Western people about, the Chinese people and their dreams. You are not an American, but you must know or familiar with the American dream.
Yeah.
What are the differences?
I think you're right. You're right. All Westerners know about the great American dream. The American dream is about getting rich. But the fact of the matter is everybody can't do it. By the very nature, by definition, everybody can't do it. Not everybody can get to the top, because whoever gets to the top has to be up above the rest of us. The key to the Chinese dream is that it's a dream for everybody. Right back at the first volume of The Governance of China, one of the axioms that President Xi talked about was the 5 development concepts. And he was talking about development which is open, development which is green, innovative, coordinated, and the 5th one was shared development. And that has always been key to his philosophy of development. Shared means it's for all, that everybody rises. And that core principle of shared development, that it is development for all, I think for me is the difference between the Chinese dream and the American dream.
从国际咨询顾问到媒体编辑记者，再到图书的英文主编，大卫·弗格森完成了一次次的身份转化，在国际传播的各个领域积累了丰富的经验。对中国未来的国际传播与交流，他会有怎样的建议与思考呢？
David, you know there's a very popular saying in China now, crossover.
Yeah.
And this is a very interesting example of a crossover.
Yeah.
You see, this is a pharmacy,
Yeah.
White Pagoda Temple Pharmacy.
Okay.
But they also run a coffee shop.
Really, yeah. Pharmacy and coffee shop, that
Yes.
is a crossover.
Let's
well,
go.
I like coffee, so let's
Okay.
go and have a look.
Okay. This is a very good place.
Well, yes, very pleasant.
And we have tea and coffee,
Yeah,
a typical crossover.
yes.
David, you have been involved in international communication for at least 16 years in China.
Yeah.
And your relatives and friends in Scotland, in the UK, how do they think your job?
So they're often very sceptical about my side of the story.
To the eyes of Western people, China is very different. We are, a big country, a huge population, socialism with Chinese characteristics. So it takes more pillars, more channels to support our story and to tell it to the outside world and to tell it well.
Absolutely. Because at the moment, there's one pillar. It's China's formal political discourse. And one pillar will only hold up a very small roof. And only a small number of people will gather under that roof. So what we need is add more different pillars, support a much bigger roof that shelters a much larger audience of people. So you have things like the soft power, movies and TV, particularly. You had, for the 70th anniversary of the PRC, you had a film called My People, My Country, which was a really good film in terms of how it was made, because it took 7 major events from the 7 decades of the PRC, and instead of telling the story of the major events, it actually found an angle. So the first one wasn't about the proclamation of the PRC, it was about a guy trying to create a ball of metal to put on the top of the flagpole.
Stories of individuals.
Actually, just human stories, but it was clever the way they did it. It was just clever, and address that mass audience and engage with them and bring them round, win some hearts and minds. So that's a good example of a pillar.
And what do you think of the younger people's role in international communication,
Well, that's
in telling Chinese stories?
That's a really, really good point. So what we need to do is target young people as a demographic and speak to them and turn them into friends before somebody else gets a chance to turn them into enemies. And the Winter Olympics is a perfect example of that.
Yes.
What happened in the Winter Olympics? You had young Chinese people like Guilin, Su Yiming, in fashionable sports like snowboarding, something that's really fashionable, being successful. And again, there's a strategy to be built there, using young ambassadors, role models, people that Western youth will look up to talk to them and turn them into friends of China. So yeah, young people it's another pillar, and it's a really good one and potentially a very effective one.
Oh, let's come back to international communications. Some people think that China is too strong, like wolf
warrior diplomacy.
And some people in the West think Chinese people are too roundabout. What is your opinion?
Chinese people like and value ambiguity. They don't tend to speak in a very direct way. And when they adopt that manner with an international audience, it comes across as rather meek and passive. Other times, China's over-aggressive. When something touches China to the core, they believe that they have the right to criticize China because they are morally superior and their system is morally superior. So it really doesn't matter how China responds. It's going to be portrayed as wrong because it's coming from people who have this innate belief in their own moral superiority. And I would actually respond by saying we have a right to stand up for our country, we have a right to stand up for our system, and we're going to do it. And if you don't like the way we do it, then that's on you.
Good. David, I met your son, Li Dawei, yesterday, the junior David. He told me that he's also interested in international communication.
在大学呢，我会学习跟国际关系有关这个专业吧，然后也是希望子承父业，然后也是做与国际交流、国际传播有关的一些工作，因为我也是比较感兴趣。然后如果有问题，也是可以直接找到答案，可以直接问我的父亲。
I think what's really important in the case of his generation is that his generation is pretty much the first one that's had it easy. His generation has never been through any of the hardships and difficulties that previous generations experienced. And there is a risk that his generation will not appreciate how lucky they are. What needs to happen is that they need to understand where their good fortune comes from. So it's really important that young people, like Li Dawei, are taught to appreciate what they have, but more importantly to appreciate why they have it. But they need to be much more conscious of the other side of the coin, which is about engaging with people in a human level.
Yes, and we hope more and more young people like Li Dawi will join in international communication.
Well, I hope so, yeah.
And tell China's story, tell it well.
They have to do the job. It has to pass to them. They are the future.
So it's a great course, great job. Let us roll our sleeves and get the job done.
Absolutely. 加油.
加油, 加油. Thank you. It's good to talk to you.
中国需要了解世界，世界也需要了解中国。10几年来，大卫·弗格森不断充实着自己对中国的认知。面对各种臆测与偏见，他坚持用真诚的态度讲述事实，化解分歧。大卫的键盘上跃动出的一串串字节，如一个个美妙的音符，带着真实的中国声音，漂洋过海，回响世界。
作为一个中国的翻译工作者，你必须热爱你的祖国，你必须在你的祖国的立场上替祖国说话。主席说：“没有你们，我们就不能沟通，有一种神圣的责任。”
似是故人来第3季，下周2晚21点10分，对话著名翻译家唐文生，外交翻译妙趣横生，读懂中国立场，看见赤子之心。